something you're really, or you were interested in, Newcomb's paradox.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't say I've done a deep dive into this, but I've just barely scratched the surface of it the last couple of days. I can't understand, and perhaps for the audience, if you wouldn't mind, explain, like setting it up, perhaps. So I'm sure you could do a better job than I could. But I can't understand where the real issue lies. So, would you mind if you could to explain it a bit, and then we could talk it out a little bit?
Okay, let's suppose there's a genie, and let's suppose there's a magical. No, I gotta remove
supercomputer,
because then that. Yeah, let's just say that there's a supercomputer that you enter this room. It scans your brain, and it knows the decisions you're going to make. In particular, the decisions on this problem. There's 2 boxes in front of you. One of the boxes you can't see through. It's a wooden box. Then the next box is, it has $1,000 and it's transparent. Mm-hmm. So it's a glass box. You're told, look, there are 2 actions you can take. You can take both boxes and you keep all the money that's inside them. So in the wooden box, maybe there's some money inside, maybe there's not, but at least you see the glass box. So you can choose. Do I take the wooden box only? This is the choice being given to you by the supercomputer. Do I take only the wooden box? Or do I take both boxes? You're thinking, well, why not just take both boxes? There's some amount of money in the wooden one. I don't know how much, but let me just take both because I'll get the amount that's in the wooden one. Plus I'll get the glass one, the 1,000. Okay, the computer says, here, there's a catch. So firstly, what's in this wooden box is either going to be nothing or it's going to be $1 million. Okay, now you're thinking, well, that's even better. Let me just take both boxes. I'll either get $1,000 or I'll get $1 million plus $1,000. Then the computer says, actually, there's another catch. That's not it. I've scanned your brain, by the way. I've scanned your brain and I figured out if you're a greedy person. If you're the greedy person that 1 million doesn't satisfy you, you want 1 million plus 1,000. So you try to take both boxes. I've actually put nothing in the box. So I'm going to punish your greed. If you're the not altruistic, but less selfish person who's just going to trust and take what's inside the wooden box, I've put in 1 million in there. So then you're like, well, do I trust this computer and so on? Well, you can imagine this computer has played this game across 1 billion people and has never predicted incorrectly. If someone tried to take both boxes, and by the way, as soon as you enter the room, this decision's already, like this decision to put 1 million or not is made instantly. Okay. And it's always been correct. This computer's always been correct. So then the question is, what do you do? So it sounds like there's no paradox because, well, why don't I just not be greedy and take the wooden box? Because if history is correct, then it punishes greed. I want 1 million, so I'm not going to even attempt to take that transparent 1,000 box. I'm just going to take my wooden box. Now, the paradox comes in because there's 2 types of rationality. There's epistemic rationality, and then there's instrumental rationality. And usually these are aligned. And that's why when someone's like, I'm a rational person, I'm like, yeah, which kind of rationality? Why do you think that one ranks supreme? What do you do in the scenarios where they conflict? Sorry. So epistemic rationality is using logic and deduction to come to conclusions. And then that's the one that would say, well, just a moment. Let me just explain what epistemic rationality is. That's the one that tries to maximize your utility. So the one that wants to maximize your utility would say, look, the history shows that if I was to take the wooden box, then I get 1 million. History also shows if I take both, I only get 1,000. So let me take the wooden box. So I'm going to maximize my utility. Then the rational one would say, yes, but that decision's already been made. It's there. It's already there. So why can't you just decide right now to take both boxes? Whether there's 1 million or not in the trunk, in the wooden box, that's there. Whether you take both or not. There's another variation where someone else is a friend and can see in the wooden box, by the way, from the back.
Right.
So anyway, the question is, why don't you just take both boxes? if the decision has been made already. Anyhow, that's it.
Can I ask, what would you do?
I would take the wooden box only.
Just one box. The $1 million box, not both.
Yeah.
So this
Look,
is
if I lose
something.
1,000, so what? But there's a variation where it's like a vaccine and your wife is dying, and one has like one box has 80% of the vaccine. So the transparent one has 80% of the vaccine, and the other one has the other 20%. So you can for sure cure her if you get both. Or I may have flipped it, but either way, the person who's listening can construct a variation for themselves of Newcomb's paradox, where it's a vaccine for someone that you love, your child. And if you get both, you get 100% of the vaccine. But if you just choose one, you only get a part of it. Then the question is, what do you do? And in that case, you find people switch. They want to take both boxes.
Right. It's like it's like the trolley problem being reframed versus saving 5 lives versus killing 5, or the vice versa.
Sorry, I interrupted you. What were you going to say, Carlos?
No, that was wonderful. Thank you for summarizing it, because I could not have done as great a job as that. The thing I don't think it's that. I probably don't understand it well enough. I have to set this up this way. I think it all relies on how much you trust the supercomputer's prediction. And it's just like that value of what percentage chance do you think, or how likely it is you think that they made the prediction that goes either against your favor. Because if you trust it, that it's right, let's say it's never been wrong 1 billion times, it seems quite obvious to just take one box and just trust it. I don't really see, I feel like there's really simple math that would just say, yes, just take the one box. I can't wrap my head around why you would ever want to take both. And so so clearly I'm wrong, because this is a famous paradox. I just can't understand why.
Yeah, the reasoning goes, if the money is there or not already, the decision's been made. Why can't you, with your own free will right now, just go and choose both? Like, what difference does choosing both make?
But if
the supercomputer to include,
right? But the supercomputer, there's a bit of the tricky part. I don't say causality gets involved here, but the decision's already been made by the supercomputer. They've predicted, I'm going to take one or the other, or both, let's say.
Even if it's predicted that you're only going to take one, though, and it put the 1 million in, why can't you just take both and get 1 million and 1,000? Your job is to maximize the amount of money that you get. So let's say it anyway.
I understand that it's, I probably just don't understand it well enough. That's what I was like hoping, but because it just seems very straightforward to me, but I am probably I probably have this huge blind spot that I cannot understand. Because I know that it's, you said epistemic versus, was it instrumental? I've seen it phrased as dominance principle versus expected utility principle. There's also a frame, the first thing I thought of was this thing from poker that I read, a poker paper many years ago. It was about counterfactual regret minimization. So it made me think of, what would minimize my regret after the fact? It's like another way of perceiving. I don't think it falls really under the envelope of this problem, but yes, if you were to try to take both and then you got nothing, that's so much worse than just take the 1 million. This is kind of, it also leads to something we were talking about earlier a little bit in terms of it's sort of, maybe it's like we're getting close to this sort of pragmatic discussion, maybe it's on truth or something, but I remember thinking like, just don't overthink it. Just take the 1 million. But of course you can move the numbers around to make it closer. Or
exactly. That's why the variations with 500,000 here, 500,000 there, or it's a vaccine are more important. So because otherwise most people think, I don't care if I don't get the extra 1,000, but that's not the point. The point is your task is to maximize the amount. If you don't maximize, if you were wrong, let's say you get, maybe that should be the variation. If you were wrong, you get shot right afterward. If you don't get the you don't get the maximum amount that you could have gotten, then you're shot right outside the room at Newcomb's.
Right. Yeah.
Right outside of Newcomb's room.
Yeah.
I need to think
I gotta
about how to phrase that. The roulette version, the Russian roulette version. I need to think about that. But I think that would make it more clear that there's a paradox here.
Yeah. I have to, I think I need to dive into it more. Maybe folks in the comments would love to explain it or clear up this blind spot that I clearly have.
If you enjoyed that clip, then the full podcast is out right now. You can click around here. Enjoy. Subscribe to Theories of Everything to get notified of upcoming podcasts, as there are new full-length podcasts every week on the topics of mathematics, physics, consciousness, free will, and AI.